Hi, my name is Sandra Samuels, host of Boss Lady Live, where I come to you every Monday night with experts to discuss issues of crime and violence, love and relationships, health and wellness, various different topics that affect us right here in Jamaica. Please like and share and subscribe. Click on the notification bell to be advised when you're on. See you then.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome again to Boss Lady Live. And it is another Monday evening where I bring to you fabulous people. Let's just say that first. I bring fabulous people, knowledgeable people, people who are doing stuff with their lives. This evening in particular, we're dealing with Parenting 101. I tried desperately to get the Parenting Commission, but they have been clearly, I see them everywhere. They are extremely busy. So we could not get them because I really wanted some stats and stuff, but we can live without the stats because, we live this every day. So this evening, I bring to you four, I don't even know what to call them, fantastic parents doing mega things about in their community, mega things about parenting, focusing on doing seminars for women who are in need, focusing on the youth, focusing on various different aspects of family life. And they themselves are parents of 4 boys, parents of 2, parents of 1, parents of 2. But this evening we're going to talk about the parenting in 2021, especially with all this online schooling and the children not being able to play as they would like, and then versus now, because I made sure I got a range of ages to speak about parenting now versus parenting then. What are the changes? What we can do in our households to make things different, because really and truly we want to bring up successful, confident, bright, energetic, engaging children who want to be a part of their community. And this takes a village. So we're going to also talk about the village. What is happening also, about keeping your kids away from all the drama and trauma of what's happening out there in the communities, as well as keeping them away from certain things on the internet. How can we manage that and manage to work? People, this evening is going to be a very good evening. Do not touch that dial. Join us. Remember, I go live because I want your interaction. I want that exchange. I want you to ask questions. We have literally 4 experts here in their areas. So we want you to be engaging. We want to try for an hour, but we will push it to an hour and a half if you have a lot of questions. So this evening, and I will start from the top, and we have Kiki. Well, most people would know Kiki, but as it says, it is an international program because we are on YouTube and we are on 2 Facebook platforms, as well as everybody here has shared on their platform. So this is all over the world. So let me introduce my guests this evening. Top, we have Kiki Thombs. She's an author, healer, and transformative coach. Known for her charismatic personality, Kiki has had a stellar career both on and off screen as a television and radio presenter and executive producer. Kiki has a passion for helping others transform their lives through her company, Self-Love International. Kiki has mastered the art of helping others heal from trauma. The release of her book, Discovering You, has been a highlight of her career. Kiki is an actress and a disc jockey. Beyond all the accolades and achievements, her most important role yet is that of wife and mother. Kiki is mother of 4 sons. Can you believe it? Four, and she's still saying 4 sons, and believes that that as that has been her greatest classroom for learning life's biggest lessons. I can so bet that that is a big lesson. Okay, so we go now to Mr. Hunter, and Mr. Hunter is first of all a client of mine. Of course, I had to draw from my clients because I believe my clients are the best. So, Mr. Calvin Hunter Jr. Calvin A. Hunter Jr. is a consultant in finance, marketing, and sales. He's also the business manager for Leadership Coach and author of the best-selling book, If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I, by Alvin Daly. Calvin is a member of the Optimist International Service Organization, which does service projects worldwide to help youth. He was district governor of the Optimist International Caribbean District for 2017-2018 Optimist year. This is the highest office in the Caribbean District, and during his term in office, the Caribbean District was recognized as the #1 district in the world of 52 districts. Calvin is also a recipient of the Governor General's Achievement Award for the country of Surrey in 2019 for his sterling contribution to his community, his commitment to excellence, and his outstanding leadership. More importantly, he is the father of 1 adult and 1 teenage daughter, 23, that's Callie-Ann, and 16-year-old Debbie-Ann, and has been married to their mother, Debbie, for 24 years. So that's a lot of juggling for Mr. Hunter as a parent, as a community activist, I would like to call him, because once you're in the Optimist, you are doing so many things in your community. Now, Michelle Gordon, the boss mom. Michelle discovered her passion for parent. And Michelle, let me just say, Michelle, I knew from flying. So, you know, we are all friends here. So there are no strangers on my platform this evening. Michelle discovered her passion for parenting and impacting children through more than 15 years of experience in the parenting and child industry space. As the founding editor of B3 Parenting magazines, if you don't have a copy, make sure you go out and get one. The Caribbean's first dedicated lifestyle magazine for parents. I've also created Island Child Style, Bold Girl, and Our Sons, all confidence building and youth development platforms for children. And most recently, Boss Mom, a support network for mothers in business. I love being a parent, and I love helping other parents to maximize their journey with their children. I like how that sounds, maximizing their journey. I like how that sounds. I'm here to help you find those answers, be it from me or through me, so that we can all live our best parenting lives. Oh Lord, I love that. And then, last but by no means least, we have Owen Wilbert Young Jr. He's also a JP, my fellow JP. And all I have to say is that Owen is a youth activist, right? He has an associate degree in business administration at Excelsior Community College, but he has been president of the Youth Council. He has done a lot of work with National Youth Service, Social Development Commission, Ministry of Youth and Culture, and and he's also served as youth club's public relations officer. He's a lot of things. The CARICOM Secretariat Regional Creative Employment and Business Opportunity CEBO workshop. He had to played a part in that, and his list goes on and on and on and on and on. He participated in the Agents of Change program. The Junior Chamber International Kingston chapter invited him to become a member, and he has done a lot of work in Vineyard Town, the Golden Age Home. He does projects with mustard seed communities. So I'm young, but him do whole heap of work. And he's a dad of one boy, right? I don't know of any others, right? Owen, one boy, my client. He's a client. His son is a client. Kiki, 4 boys are my client. Michelle Gordon's son come to me from time to time. So we are here as family, and we want to start. Let me start with Kiki, as I would say the super mom of the 4. I want to start with Kiki because I really don't know how she do it. I lift my hat to her every day. I tell her that I love her like cook food. I tell her that I respect her like 10 times over, because when I see her with those boys, she's like another thing to do for today. Kiki, welcome, my sister friend.
Oh,
I
Queen.
really don't know how you do it, plus all the other things that you do. Just tell us a little bit about what it is like to be a mom of 4 boys, especially in this pandemic.
Yeah, well, hi everybody. First and foremost, Queen, thank you so much for having me. First, nothing but love and blessings. So, for me, my eldest is actually now 22, which is kind of weird for me to say that. So, my eldest is 22. I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So they're spaced out, pretty evenly, I'd say. So I have the gamut of experiences. For me, this pandemic, what I have come to realize is just the social awkwardness that's seemingly developing. So for example, my boys are athletes. The 2 middle children are athletes, like football and basketball and track and field. And when the pandemic hit, that was like one of the first things to go. And so for them, I'm thankful that throughout the pandemic they had each other, because I don't know how single parents of only children actually are able to manage, because I think there are more demands on the parents' time, balancing work and having to, step up with school and step up with, keeping the child occupied. And, I think it's a lot of pressure. So thankfully for me, they have each other. So the banter still continues, the jovialness still continues, the arguments continue. So,
And they can play with each other.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am realizing though, especially for the baby, is because I haven't sent him out to school yet, I realize that he is really, in my opinion, awkward, in comparison to the rest of them. Now he's still, thankfully very, talkative and stuff, because he has the older brothers to, to communicate with. But when you put him around other children his age, you could tell that there's some awkwardness happening. So
Right.
for me, as well, as just thankful that they've been able to manage themselves in the pandemic. But my concern is that the same space that they're learning through or from is also the same space that they end up playing on, and that for me is messing up the brain, because it means I don't know how well they're able to switch from, oh, okay, hey, we're playing games now, to, oh, okay, now it's school time, now it's class time.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not face to face, I know for a fact that one of my sons was a straight A student, but now I'm seeing him coming home with B's and C's, and you know what I mean. And when you talk to him, he's just like, I don't know, mommy, like I really don't know. So I think face to face had so much positive, attributes to it, that we kind of.
Right.
But my mother said it best. She said, "Boy, I rather them dumb and safe more than bright and gone out to school and catch COVID." So,
Right.
but one of those things. But
We just have to ride out this period.
yeah, we just have to write it out, and for me, it's just essentially just making it a safe space to engage in conversations with them, you know what I mean? Like, even though the conversation around the vaccine, like I have to be talking to my 14-year-old, you know what I mean? Is this what you want to do? Is this what you don't, you don't want to do it? He has a heart murmur, for example, so I feel caught between a rock and a hard place. And it's not that I'm anti-vax at all, but I just wish we had more options available to us, you know what I mean, as opposed to just these two vaccines that are available. So those are the type of things, you know what I mean, that's been happening specifically as it relates to the pandemic, you know, to answer your question.
Mhm. And with regards to the moms that you interact with through your program, how is that going? What is their feedback? You know.
You know, to be honest with you, a lot of moms are having a really hard time right now. I think more than anything else, it's taking a lot of mental fortitude to maneuver through this time, because a lot of moms are actually questioning themselves, you know, am I doing you know, am I doing my best, you know, I feel caught between a rock and a hard place. There's so many demands, you know, on me at work. You know, some moms have lost income, you know what I mean, how am I able to provide, how am I able now to parent in the way that I used to parent without bringing in the stress that I'm going through now, you know, towards the child, how am I able now to ensure that I'm doing well enough to support my child through this pandemic as well. And they're really having a hard time. And here's how emotional upheaval kind of works, because once you start taking things on and you're not able to compartmentalize or steady them off or find outlets on how to handle each, you know, each issue as they come, they all kind of like culminate in one, and it starts feeling like a whirlwind. And I tend to find energetically that once you get caught up in this whirlwind, things just start happening, you know, that just compound on the problem. So yeah, a lot of the mothers that I'm seeing, there are major issues. They're going through a stage where they're questioning themselves and questioning their parenting skill and questioning themselves as mothers.
Okay. Thank you for that. Calvin, over to you. You have one teenager and one adult. So, what was your well? You have a wife, so
Yes,
you have that zing and that, just like Kiki has that yin and that yang.
yes. So
You
the
have you
balance
as
is
a
there.
father, as the head of the household.
Yes,
How do
certainly.
you manage?
Well, interestingly, the pandemic has given my girls more time with me because working from home and with mom as well, working from home actually put us in the space with them much more than they would have had in the past.
Hmm.
So on that front, that worked out a little better than before.
Hmm.
So when the pandemic started, it was like a big holiday that all of us were on, locked up in the house. We had the food, we were playing games, we were doing all the things that we never normally got the opportunity to do. And what happened over time is that I realized, similar to what Kiki was saying, that now I have to adapt. My parenting skills are now being challenged because, you know, that is not going to keep them very long and they get bored pretty easily. So, in short order, it was okay, daddy. This online school thing really not working because Kalyan is in third year at the University of West Indies and Debian is now doing CSEC. So there is all that emotions of not being out with their friends, not being able to participate in a classroom setting. And it's now how you as the parent can fit in and try and make them see that, hey, these challenges are happening. It's just a speed bump in the road. We still have to try and get over it. We still have to press forward. We still have to move ahead. And it has been really, really trying. I mean, I don't know if you sent out messages to my girls, but yesterday Debian was just overwhelmed. I don't know if that was my test to come today. She was just
Yes.
overwhelmed. I mean, with all the SBAs, with the homework, she says she has no time. And it's now to sit down with her and work out a formula to say, yes, you have time. It's just not as much as you'd like. It's not, it's the interaction that you're not getting. And part of what really hurt me during the pandemic was the fact that my girls didn't want to share certain things with me. So that for me was a challenge. I
You said
wanted
you
to
want
be
to
there
share
for them.
certain things,
Yes,
personal
I
things
wanted
that
to
they would
hear
go to
everything.
mom to.
Yeah, so
So you
there's
have that
that. There's
you have that relationship with your girls that you want them to say anything to tell you everything. So what about
exactly.
mom? Mom is there.
Oh yes, mom is there, but there comes a time when mom and dad plays good cop, bad cop, and then you realize that they don't want to share with either of us. So we have actually
Okay.
had to find outlets for them, other persons who we trust, who they can speak with, and that is part of what we use. And as you said earlier, it takes a village to raise a child, and that
Did
is
you
just
always want to be a dad?
oh yes, oh yes. Growing up, I was in a footballer, so I was in football teams, and I was in the youth club, and I went to Greatest High School in Jamaica, St. George's College. But I hope you all feel the same way
I'll
about your
hold it against
school.
you.
I hope you all feel the same way
I'll
about
hold
your
it
school.
against you.
But as part of St. George's College growing up, there was a service element that we had to do. So we had to, that was part of the curriculum. And in fact, just yesterday, we completed a mentorship program and had like a graduation ceremony for a group of us past students from St. George's who are going to be going back to the school to mentor because we realized how much that helped us as students. And especially in these times, it's just a listening ear sometimes that our children need. And part of the misguided view of many persons is that you have to have a lot of money to help children and to be a part of their lives, but they really, really value the time you share with them much more. That's what I've learned. The underlying thing is that the children want to be respected and they want recognition and they want to feel that you care. That's the
Right.
underlying thing I've learned from meeting with parents, working on projects right throughout the Caribbean. That's really what we do.
Absolutely. Over to you now, Michelle. Michelle, you're a mother of two? Unmute. Unmute, please.
There we go.
You're a
I'm
boy and a girl, right?
biological mother of two, but I now have I've inherited a son in the pandemic.
Bonus son.
I have a bonus son now in the pandemic. So I have two 16-year-old boys and my daughter is 13.
Mm-hmm. And your experience as a mom, what has
So
that been like?
the pandemic has been fun for us for the most part. I think we're now wearing it's getting tiresome now. But I would say the first, just like what Calvin said, the first couple of weeks we're like, yeah, man, this is it. This is a holiday. We were all good. But when we realized that this was going to be a new way of life, one of the things that we did as a family, I've come from a family that we do stuff together all the time. So every couple of weeks we were in the car, packed up, gone to country somewhere. So we actually bonded a lot during this period, and that was excellent, you know. We started to tire of each other. I think when September of this year came, we anticipated going back to school. And when that didn't happen, we were like, dear God, we're starting over again. And that it just felt prolonged at that point. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, so dealing with both kids, my son, he's the people person, he's the socialite. And my daughter so she loves being home. She doesn't want to go back. She's like, Mommy, can I be homeschooled? He actually back.
You're breaking up.
He just started storm, so he's eager to get going.
Can you
and
repeat
stuff.
what you just said? You just broke up.
Hearing
Please?
me?
No, you broke up a while ago. Can you just repeat
Okay,
what
sorry.
you said?
You hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Now I'm saying that my son started sixth form. Just started sixth form in September. So he went back to school today, actually. Their first day back was today. But my daughter is loving being at home. So she enjoys this. She wants to be homeschooled, but I can't help her with that. I'm dying for them to go back out. I think, early on in the parenting game, I was able to decide or accept the type of parent I am. I'm not particularly patient with them. So I'm not the one who's going to help them with the tutoring and the after school. That's not me. So they need to go back to school so that we can stop arguing at home. But outside of that, I think the pandemic really has shown us the value of time. It's just going so quickly. And for me, when we started the pandemic, I thought I still had, you felt like you had a long time with the kids. But when I look at my son just turned 17, he's gone in a year. So it's made me recognize a little bit more the value of time and appreciating this time with them. And I keep saying to them, I want to create these memories now at home. So whether it's games night, country drive out, just a random dinner together. We've been eating more at the dining table a lot since the pandemic.
Amen. I'm going there.
Yeah, yes. Man. When the pandemic started, my daughter, she was very much into cooking, and she actually opened a restaurant at home called Quarantinis. So every night Yeah, man, she did up her little sign, and we got served hot towels, and that novelty wore off pretty quickly. But we still have maintained dining table meals at least once a week,
Amen.
and those are great because I try to enforce put the phones down so we can just talk. Sometimes they don't talk because trust me, the teenage years, they are creatures of a different planet.
And we're
But
gonna talk about that.
yeah,
We're
man,
gonna
yeah, man.
talk about, we're gonna delve a little bit into that.
Yeah, but I think I'm
Mm.
learning as a parent. They're teaching me how to parent at different stages of this journey. Um, for me, I think the biggest drawback, and I don't want to call it a drawback, but the biggest realization for me with this pandemic is I had no clue that my children ate so much. Listen, I go to the supermarket twice a week, and it is driving me crazy. I've never seen anything like it. So and but it's also a teachable moment for me because I started to complain about it. I'm like, "You're eating again? What is wrong with you?" And I don't want them to come away with these negative feelings about food or about the money spending at the supermarket because trust me, I complain because it is a lot. But outside of that, if I try to look at the silver lining of the pandemic and not the dark cloud.
Mhm.
So,
And growing up a boy versus a girl,
mhm.
what are some of the lessons that you learned?
Well, first of all, that book that came out I think it was maybe in the 80s, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. There's a reason for that. They are completely different, very, very different. And I think parents who are blessed to have both genders, I believe God thinks that God gave us extra tools to be able to manage them. Because you literally have to, I mean, in general, once you have more than one child, you have to figure out each child, what their requirements are, and to parent them differently because you can't throw a blanket over them and parent them all the same. Kiki can attest to that. But
Mhm.
the same thing obtains when you have two different genders. I think for me, having the boy first, and if I'm to be honest, I actually, in my goals and dreams of becoming a parent, I wanted boys. I just kind of like the rough and tumble. Um, so I was very prepared to have a boy. And then when my daughter came and I encountered this extreme emotional thing, it took me a while to get adjusted to that, even though that's what I am. I'm just as emotional. So a lot of times I'm parenting her and I'm like, Rocket, you're talking to yourself. It's the same thing. So it's just understanding the dynamics of two completely different human beings. I believe that up to a certain age, whether they're boy or girl, children need basic things. They need love, they need attention. Just like what Calvin said, they want to be seen, they want to be heard and understood. So that there's no gender bias when it comes to those requirements or those needs of a child. But because there are physical differences, and I believe that emotionally when they start to get older, are you hearing me? Did I just cut out?
You just, yes, you
Yeah,
just froze.
emotionally as they get older, you have to deal with them on. It still has to be on an individual basis. We have to get to the place as parents where we realize that we are raising. Is it one of them just walked it? We're raising. I told him, I said, guys, I'm going on a live. And then they were going to tell me, Mommy, why? Anyway, yeah. Raising. I'm trying to raise kids to be as one day somebody's husband and somebody's wife. So I try to be aware of the lessons that I teach them as we go every single day. They're daily lessons. It's not like a big lesson that will happen one day. It's just a daily interaction. And for me, the basics with them, communication remains the same. You have to speak to them. Boys will interact differently. They're not as, my daughter will jump in my bed every night to tell me how her day was. He'll do it once every couple of weeks when he feels like there's something burning inside. I can't try to force it out of him because the more you push as a parent at this stage, the further they're going to push you. So you just kind of start to gauge them. For me, I try to read a lot about how to do it because there are tons of books, yet there's still not one book that is going to tell you everything. I listen to Kiki has been actually very helpful as a friend and as a Kiki is actually an in-law, former in-law, my ex-husband's cousin.
Another
But
family.
I have a lot of respect for her craft, because it's a craft, it's a skill to raise 4 boys. So boys versus girls, yes, they are different, but they're not that different that it spreads you too thin. It doesn't, because I think once their basic needs are met, their emotional needs most importantly, um, then we're good. And I try to talk to them. They're at a stage, and I've always been a talker with them, asking them how they feel, what's going on. But now it's just me learning when to pull back, because that's
Right.
the stage when we can become annoying. I think I'm a very cool mother. I don't know if they agree with me all the time, but I try to. I'm not friend. They know that I'm trustworthy. They can come to me when they need to, but I'm not the best friend who is going to give them what they want all the time.
Right.
Rules and regulations have been set for a long time, so we just know we're cruising. We're kind of at a stage now at 16 and 13 when we're good. So sorry, 17 and 13. Because I'm very touchy about the age, when it's bad.
And after four, I tend to get the ages and the dates and everybody's name mixed up.
Everything
Like I asked
wrong.
them the
Yeah,
other day,
I
like,
can
what's the sort
understand
of my
that.
numbers?
All
One, two,
right.
three, and
That
four.
sounds great. Now, Owen, you are a single dad. Am I correct? Is that the right term? I don't know if okay. You're a
Correct.
single dad, right?
Single parent.
Single
Yes,
parent,
ma'am.
right? And I wouldn't say you fit in the mold. Because when I look at you, when you come into the shop, a hot boy, look like, you're just looking for the next, party. But you are a serious dad, and you have an awesome little one. What's his name again? What's your son's name? You're freezing. What's your son's name again?
He's Owen Young the third, or JJ. So he's Owen Young the third, or JJ.
The third, okay. And
Right.
he is well-mannered, very confident, very well put together, very respectful,
Right.
and he's about what, 9?
He's 7 years old. 7.
He's 7, right? He's about 7. He's 7. Well, first of all, you decided to have a child, and I don't know what the circumstances are, but you are now a single dad raising your son yourself.
Yes.
In your mind, well, first of all, did you think you were equipped to raise him on your own? And why did you think you were equipped to raise him on your own?
Well, to be honest, absolutely not. I didn't believe at first that I was able to. However, you learn through experiences, and when the situation arises that I pretty much had to go through the courts and seek for custody of my son, that's where things got really serious.
What made you do that? Because most men just give up and walk away. A lot, no, I don't want to say most. A lot. Quite a few.
Right. The statistics would have shown that, most men pretty much turn their backs on their child. However, I was in a situation, I think a full-fledged, teenage relationship with his mother. We got older, we grew apart, priorities kind of change. And we're discovering ourselves, and we realize that, the relationship isn't working. But for the best interest of the child, we have a saying in Jamaica that, boy picnic stick to their mother and mothers knows best. However, it's not so in every single case where the female is solely the caregiver or guardian for a child, based on psychological defects or, personality issues, etc. Now, when my son was born, I automatically fell in love. It's like I rediscovered myself. I never hesitated to say, hey, my son definitely is going to have my name. He's just going to be the third. And I started discovering myself when my son was born. And it was a brand new experience. And I can't really tell you in words to say where it came from, this sense of belonging or responsibility. But I just knew that, this is what I have to do. No if, no but, no maybe. Went through the courts, been very long from 2016, trying to obtain full custody. That matter got resolved. ended in 2020, just last year, but during the interim, he has been living with me. My son is, as you mentioned, a phenomenal human being. He is his mother as well as myself. He has their traits, my personalities, and those of his own. At 7, I get it a lot. Persons are like, is he like 12 or 9 or, very assertive,
Very
very smart,
mature.
very, very mature. You would have conversed with him on many occasions and you see his capacity, and that motivates me to strive to seek more, to broaden my horizons so that I can impart that knowledge on him. I'm very big on core values, I'm big on service. So during this whole pandemic, I've
And you do
always
a
been
lot
close.
of work with the youth.
Yes, I'm big on youth development, and I'm a trained mediator with the Dispute Resolution Foundation also. I've been in schools doing anger management, behavioral change, and stuff like that. And I try to impart all of those trainings that I'd have received onto my son. He used to ask me like, Daddy, why persons always call you and why they always respect you so much? And, even before I became a JP and stuff like that, and they say you have to lead by example. So I think through socialization from when I was a bit younger, maybe in my later teenage years, I'd have met some persons and would have became mentors or, persons to motivate me in some way, shape or form, seeing something within me that maybe I wasn't really seeing in myself as much. And then I said, you know what? I think I really need to just tap into this and just flip the switch on, and listening to the laws of attraction. Because I used to say things, persons laugh off it, oh, you're not going to be this or you're not going to be that type of thing. But then I realized once you can reset your mindset, because your thoughts actually become your actions.
Amen.
I just started just, I guess, walking a different path or a better path to say, but going back to Owen the third, JJ, the pandemic, he has always been like my little best friend and my bona fide brethren. Persons think my son is my little brother based on how we flex and how we move. But this time would have brought us so much closer in terms of him being at home. And as Mr. Hunter said earlier, like they really need to be acknowledged. They really need to be respected. And I think I give him enough, but I wasn't really giving him as much, because he requires a lot. It's just us 24/7, besides when he's at school or I get him. No, he'd always hear me talking about persons or talking about different situations. And I see that he kind of has the same passion, for caring and just looking. He's displaying so many leadership qualities, not just in his family household, but at school. So he's someone that they'll always call upon. He's almost like a role model within his own right at school. So I try to impart core values, primarily respect, having him learn what's the meaning of respect, respecting yourself, respecting others, and affirmations. So every single morning, like religiously, he has to say a lot of positive things about himself, at least 5, to go into the mirror and say, I'm intelligent and smart, so he's he's not going to have that, I guess, self-esteem issue, and it's very adaptable. So it's pretty much trying to garner some core values and instilling them in him and having him practice them, to be a better person. So we've been doing that a whole lot. I'm also relearning and unlearning a lot of things in terms of the school curriculum and how it has changed. I honestly believe that the online learning has its disadvantages a whole lot in terms of the lacking of engagement. Because my son, he's one who really learns. Like he has to be in person, he'll grasp more. So I have to pick up the slacks, from the teachers and, the extra work and stuff like that, and try to bond with him and see if, he can grow and grasp certain concepts, not just in school, but just holistically.
So Owen, like all you're bridging them now, can you, if you see your brethren them not stepping up to the plate, how you manage that? How you handle that?
Well, as a mediator, I think I'm very good at facilitating. I have very good listening skills, and I try to give best advice that I possibly can, and I seek as well. I try my best to just be a part of, try to build that bond, try to build that relationship. However, based on the underlying factors or the what caused the breakup between them and the mother, it can be very, very, very crucial. Sometimes persons might get boisterous or violent or, very angry based on the hurt of the relationship or the other partner. However, I'm trying to get them to focus on the child, who's going to become an adult and have maybe suffer from some level of trauma or display some level of behavior in school or maybe in the community based on that lacking of that other parent. So, I mean, parenting, we don't get a manual with it. We learn every single day. I learn every day. I ask questions. I'm learning from you guys right now. So I try my best to encourage them, but trust me, it is very difficult for some. Like I have a friend in particular, his situation is that, that's almost, it's too bad to be like replaced. So, but I still try.
But is it, you don't find it overwhelming? All right. So for example, I would say everybody on this platform has had whether some kind of help, they have a village. What about those single parents, those other single dads out there who don't have anybody mentoring them, who don't have anybody to handhold and to guide them down the right path like you did? How can we, like, say, work with those persons? Because a lot of kids are falling by the wayside, which I'm sure you see on a daily basis.
Definitely, I can attest to that. However, just to answer that question, I believe that maybe a platform can be created, especially for single parents, being dads or fathers. We're not taught as men to ask for help, so if a man, example, have him daughter or him son or raise or two children, by whatever means necessary of the mother, him just say, boy, I'm going to tough it out. A Jamaican thing, him try and best him go work and provide the bread. But as it relates to the social and psychological effects or the nurturing that they would need, that part is absent, But I guess if a platform can be created where persons who are trained in these areas to not just motivate, but counsel and encourage these men or single parents, mothers as well, how to, I guess, properly or better raise their child, that would be excellent. And talking really helps. Talking really, really, really helps. I believe in talk therapy a whole lot, just asking questions and listening and also applying.
Okay. Over to you, Kiki. Some of the, all right, I don't know how you balance 4 children with work and husband.
Wow. Well, I mean, so much has been said. Like, just one thing I just wanted to highlight though is in terms of even the parenting scale. I tend to think, for example, that Denver, who's in the house as a man, has more weight on his shoulders than I do in the house as a woman. No,
Explain.
the reason why I say that is Denver is their direct role model, because no matter what he says, they're going to mimic the gender. You understand? So as boys, even though I'm here, like for me, I feel like I'm allowed to be a woman and they're okay with that. You know what I mean? So they look at me and say, oh, yeah, mommy just being mommy, so to speak. But it's daddy and they silently do it. They're not even vocal or over the top with it. You know what I mean? It's just the subtlety of how much they observe what daddy is doing. And then you might look over at them and see them mimicking daddy or saying things that daddy say. You know what I mean? So I think gender to gender, so even with Michelle, for example, you know what I mean? I'd want to tend to believe that Amanda or, Michelle's daughter might be looking towards Michelle for the gender cues, you know what I mean? On how exactly am I supposed to behave and stuff. So for me, in a household of boys, I'm a tomboy. So
Okay.
you know what I mean? It's like, but I could see the subtlety on how they watch and observe daddy and almost want to mimic daddy more than me, So I just wanted to say that. Openly in terms of balance, you know what, Queen, to be honest with you, there's been so many mistakes in my life. I started off with having my first child at the age of 19, didn't know anything about parenting and never had the opportunity to raise him actually. So by the time I had my second child, I was at the age of 27. A lot of years had passed then, but I wouldn't have known a thing then about parenting. And I can tell you, that was when I was a single parent. I thought I was going to lose my mind. I felt I was suffering from postpartum at one point because this whole thing just rocked my core. As much as you might take up a book and read or whatever, it is completely different when you are in the zone. And because I grew up in a dysfunctional home, I naturally started doing the things that was passed on to me, you know what I mean, without even rationalizing it. And I remember at the age of 7 now, bear in mind that anybody who has a child, like Owen said it, like you can't explain the love that you feel for the child. It's like I have 4 children and I feel like my heart is walking out of my chest 4 times over. You know what I mean? It's like you can't find the words to explain. But it doesn't exempt you from making mistakes. And oh, I started making the mistakes rapidly, you know, especially as a single parent under stress trying to balance, had no clue. I mean, everywhere I went, I'm in the media, and everywhere I went, PP Clock Clock Zan was with me. You know what I mean? I remember working on radio and having to, because I had nobody to watch him, I'm working the graveyard shift and I'm running upstairs to pat him up like he's padded in with, you know, comfort and blanket and toys all around him, and I'm running downstairs to the studio to play music and, you know, talk on the microphone, and I'm running back upstairs in a frenzied pace because I'm a single mother, never had it to afford no help on her, nothing at all, and made all the mistakes. And then at around the age of 7, I remember my son saying to me, hey, you know what, I want to kill myself. Stop me. Everything dead in my tracks, because it meant I said the same thing when I was younger, but it didn't mean that I wanted to die. It just meant that there's so much pain that was happening that I wasn't able to process it. So the words that came out of my mouth was, I want to kill myself. And when I heard him say it, I got it in check immediately, because how much I loved him, it stared me dead in the face. And I was like, no, girlie, we're not about to recreate this whole cycle. So you have got to get yourself in check. And I think that is literally where my parenting journey started. So I believe that every one of all of my children would reflect where I was in my life. So my 22-year-old, I never had a chance to raise him, but he'd probably reflect whatever interaction he would have had with me. You know what I mean? My 14-year-old again would reflect where I was at that point when I was raising him, and we've worked hard to build that relationship. And what's happened is complete honesty, and it's been years. Like, I've had to come clean. I've had to say to him, hey baby, whatever was done to you had nothing to do with you at all. It was mommy working through her issues, her whatever, and I've had to just tear it all off and just be as honest and as open and as apologetic and not just honest but committed to change, because that's what they're going to watch. So it's not just this, but he's seen the changes, he's seen the commitment, he's seen that, yo, if mommy was this way before and now she's this way, it means that I can do it if needs be, and it means I'm now at liberty to hold him accountable to changing and growing as well beyond that. Then there's Joshua. Joshua is like the love baby, because I think I learned so much from Zion that I was able to, you know, impart it onto Joshua. So I became better in terms of parenting. And by the time I got to Cairo, who's my 4th child, he's like in the zone. You know what I mean? Them call him the wash belly, but I think people use the term wash belly because of where you are in your life. I'm older, I'm way more matured, I'm more open to seeing who he is as a person. I want him to show me who he is and just kind of nurture that. You know what I mean? So he has a lot of freedom and stuff now. The whole of them know that there's a line, and that's where I think for me it's important as a boy mom. I had it wrong at first because I'm naturally a tomboy, as I said before. My father raised me, yo, change the car tire, let's go, suck it up. We're not in a no girly, nothing. That's how I was raised. So as a single parent of a boy, society was telling me that, yo, ooh, you have to toughen up with your boy picking, you know, because you don't want him touch 14 and you one and him go back chat you. I was already a tomboy. I never needed to get any harder. You know what I mean? And so I went into this whole relationship with no warmth, no nurturing, really, you know, for Zan. And that wasn't cool at all. So you know, I've learned how to nurture, how to have them show you who they are, how to come clean, how to just be transparent, and how to be honest and just let them know that, yo, it's still nothing but love, you know. So I think for me though, the line is, as a boy mom, they know when the voice drops couple registers and I say I'm serious at the end of anything I say, it means I'm serious. So I don't have to get into the hitting and the shouting and the this and the that, because they know when mommy gets to, and I've warned them, I said, yo, guess what? When I get to that crossing or that line and the voice drops and I say I'm serious, anytime you hear me say I'm serious, it means stop whatever you're doing, because it means that's the zone right there. In terms of balance though, balance is something that you might have it today and you might not have it tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like life is like a bicycle wheel, it's up and down and stuff. But it's just always being so aware, because not only is it that the boys are I don't want to say demanding, but in need of your time, because they say how children spell love is time, and it's really true. But also, I have my husband, and you'd be very surprised to know that a lot of men, and don't bash me, but a lot of men still have that inner childhood wound. You know what I mean? That they so not only are you nurturing your husband, but you're also nurturing, and you have to pay attention to what those wounds might be. So it's a whole balancing act. But
Mhm.
it's kind of selfless, sometimes, and you miss it sometimes and you'll get it sometimes, but the fact is, just don't stop and always be aware of what the needs are.
Mhm. Michelle had mentioned earlier that when in bringing up her children, she's trying to raise her son as a husband and her daughter as a
Oh,
wife. Do you have those thoughts in the back of your mind when you are?
wholeheartedly. If I call the three of them right now downstairs, because the other one they're afraid, if I call the three of them and say, listen, what do I always tell you now? My motto is, I am not here as a helper. I have nothing against helping. You understand? I don't have a problem cleaning, cooking,
Mhm.
scrub off whatever I need to scrub off. I am a good housewife, but I need them to understand how to be independent men first before they walk into a relationship thinking that it's a woman's duty to take care of them. No,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. And I'm telling them and teaching them the difference between a man providing, because oftentimes when you hear a youngster and you ask him what does it mean to provide for a woman, the first thing that they think about is them have to go provide, them have to go work and get the money and buy food and make sure say this and that. They don't have a clue that it's you, the person, and what you're bringing to the table that even matters even more sometimes than the money. Because I know some fathers who don't have it, but them soul just so beautiful. It just, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I always say to them, yo, like at the end of it, what a woman really wants, and you need to learn this, is a home. You have to create a home for a woman. It's not just the space where she going to put her underwear, where she going to, you understand, where she going this, where she going to that, where she going to, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you have to reason with them in such a way that they understand the reality of life and understand
So you
the
actually have these discussions with them
yeah,
as
yeah, of
you.
course, of course. And like
Okay.
even where my son is concerned, it's a case of okay, he's going to get to the stage now of girls and blah blah blah. And I said to him, honey, just understand what a dating period is. Yeah, a dating period is you getting to know somebody and them getting to know you. It's no bluff, it's no this. I said, listen, there's no negotiation when it comes onto your heart, and there's no negotiating when it comes onto somebody else's heart. Don't play games. If it's one thing I can tell you, you can BS with your friend and carry on, but when it comes to somebody's heart, in a relationship context, in a friendship context, always be truthful about who you are and who they are. And what a dating period is just to say, what am I bringing to the table? Does it work for you? And what are you bringing to the table? Does it work for me? If it's not working, then it's not working. Don't play games. Like that's the main thing, because we have such a gallus culture, so to speak. You know what I mean? 'Cause man a gallus and man a whore. No, 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 no. Just understand what the core principles are. So
Mhm.
I said the
Yeah.
balance up and down. One day you have it, the next day you
Okay.
might not, but it's always striving to get it.
Absolutely. Calvin, you have a 23-year-old. So back in the day, 23 years ago, parenting style was a little different from now. How do you balance the differences between your 16-year-old now versus your 23-year-old then? I mean, coming up, were there any shifts in the way you operate?
Oh, certainly. My constant parenting guide is juggling between trying to be fair, firm, and friendly. That's it's a
I like
constant
that.
juggle. It's a constant juggle. And by friendly, I don't mean being their friend, because
Mhm.
there are times when that is not on the card. As I say, mom plays good cop a lot of the times, but there has to be the rules have to be set and the guidelines have to be followed and the consequences are laid out and you know how you operate. But
Mhm.
definitely, parenting years ago, as you asked, is totally different from now. There are many more distractions now. Things that I used back in the day, I probably couldn't use now. For example, I remember when my older daughter was not doing so well in primary school, and I was beaten by everybody because of how I dealt with it. What I did, I just picked her up in grade 5 one day, in grade 6, and brought her to one of the non traditional high schools in Jamaica and went there to see the principal unannounced.
You're related to my mother.
The principal wasn't there. I brought her to the guidance counselor. But by the time we reached to the guidance counselor, she saw two fights. I mean, good fights, stone, not stone, and all kind of thing. And the guidance counselor said, I am here and I wouldn't want you to come here. And she was traumatized, I tell you.
Yes.
And she couldn't sleep and all of that. And the teachers were against what I did. Her mom was livid. But what happened? In a few weeks now, the schoolwork, it just improved because she realized now this was the destiny. So not only is parenting then a little different, but what obtains now is also it depends on the child. So you have to understand your children and know what works with which child. I I
Absolutely.
get some good licks when I was growing up. I don't beat my children. I've had to do it once or twice throughout their lives, but I don't have it as a practice. I don't beat them, and it's after growing up then I'm realizing. But the licks worked for me, and I wasn't a bad child. But in order for me to understand, because my mom was the one in the home most of the times, my father was out making the bread. So in order for me to be kept in line, I grew up in a tough inner city community where what I saw on the corner was man rob them and Miglan guys with guns and things, and I could have easily fallen along the wayside had it not been for my parents and that stable home environment and the fact that I got a drip when I needed to get a drip, and I had good mentors. I look back, and at every stage of my life, I had good role models and good mentors. So that's part of what I try to do now with my girls. I try to get help because we alone can't do this. So
Absolutely.
I get good help in terms of persons who you know would help to guide them. And uh, I mean, we have been fed so many things in growing up culturally and in our society. Part of the thing is that what I used to tell my girls back in the day, tell them when they ask me, Daddy, you love me? I say, I love you sometimes. And people couldn't understand why would you say that to your child? But if you think about it, do we really love unconditionally? That's the question. Don't we love with some conditions? It's either control based, fear based. There's something there. And then I did ask them, Daddy, when don't you love me? And I said, well, it's not that I don't love you, but think about this. And you speak with them and you let them understand the situation. You define success and we define success, and a lot of times we try to live vicariously through our children. So we put them in a box, we force them in the corner and tell them this is what we want to be. This is how we define success, this is how we define failure, this is what achievement is. But the trick is we don't even encourage our children to be who they are. And a big part of the problem is a lot of us don't understand who we are. And we haven't found out about ourselves when we get to the stage of parenting. So, I mean, going in the communities and seeing people parent, I realize that it's the affection that you give your child, it's the time that you spend with them, the little things. It's the little things. It's taking home a candy sometimes. It's taking a walk with them. It's going to a football game with your child. It's the little things. Some of the things that I remember from my childhood had nothing to do with a lot of money.
Yes. I agree with
And
that.
that's part of what I try to teach my girls. I don't force them in any corner. The big problem I've had over the years with parenting them is that they continuously said that, Daddy, you have achieved so much, you have done so much. And I'm sure Kiki probably would have this. You've set the bar so high, and they feel daunted. But I continuously try to affirm them and to have them realize that you have your life to live, and whatever it is that becomes your passion, what your life purpose is good enough. So it's not backing
Excellent.
in a corner to
Like
say
that.
that definitely you have to be a doctor, a lawyer. This no, in fact, my daughter is in entrepreneurship because I said to her, I spent many years in corporate, and being in corporate, I was unhappy for many years. Unhappy. So I don't want that for you. I want you to spend your life being who you are. But education is non-negotiable. So you have to go to school. You have to get an education because that's our way out. And that's what when I go into the communities, I tell the guys on the corner, I tell the children that I speak with. Because also years ago, Winston Tongfa, God bless his soul, he said to me, Calvin, I know you're going to move out of Almond Town, but promise me that you won't leave Almond Town. Because the kids growing up need to see examples and role models, and they need to see that people can make it out.
Absolutely.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
a
Well
simple
said.
word, yeah, they have to see that, yeah, it can be done.
Because they need to see that it's possible. They
Yeah,
have to have that visual.
yeah. It's not about the
They have
words.
to
It's
have that
not the
visual.
words and things. It's the actions. And your children mimic your actions. And they
Absolutely.
listen to you. But what happens? Little Johnny is misbehaving and you slap little Johnny and little Johnny behaves. Slap behaves. But as you're gone, it's back to, unless you can change the thinking and let them see that that's not, yeah, it's not going to work.
Right. Michelle, you said you fell in love with parenting 15 years ago. What was it about parenting that made you want to get into this area in the big way that you have? But
Well,
parenting is easy work, you know.
I think the bio you read is a little old, so it's 17 years now. But yes,
Oh,
um,
17, okay.
um, I can't pinpoint one thing that would have made me fall in love with parenting. I remember when I
How
was
was it your challenges that made you go this route?
so it's an interesting dynamic, and you probably have never heard this story, Sandro,
Yeah.
but you were actually instrumental in me going into business, in the parenting business, and you don't remember this. You and I was a passenger. We were deadheading to Miami. So for those who don't know, Sandra and I were both flight attendants, and this is many years ago. And you were going up. You had just started your business, and you were going up to I think you're going to a conference or something like that. And I remember we sat on the last row. We're going up on flight 21 in the morning. And I remember saying to you, I was a new mommy at the time, and I wanted to start a business. I wanted to do my store, but I didn't know anything about business.
I remember talking to you about the store.
Right. And you were the one who said to me, you, Sandra Samuel, said to me, Michelle, just do it. You don't need, because I remember saying, well, I need to go and do a course on this and that. And you're like, no, I said, go buy me. You said to me, go buy me, go downtown and go buy some goods and come back and sell them. And I'm like, I remember saying, do you mean like Higgler? And you laugh and said, no, Higgler, where Higgler? And that's all. You told me that. And I remember you encouraged me. You're like, no, Michelle, just go up. Just find the stuff that you want. You don't have to go to the wholesalers right now. Just go buy the goods on sale. Make sure you get them cheaper and come back and start your business. You and I don't think I've ever told you thank you for that.
No.
Because you
You're
encouraged me.
welcome.
So anyway,
You're
long and
welcome,
short,
darling.
when I was pregnant with Christian, I couldn't find things that I liked for him here. My chest is always high, and I couldn't find things I liked. So I started my own clothing store, but I
Hold on.
didn't enjoy the process of selling. I didn't like it, but I loved giving advice. Every time someone would come into the store, I was more interested in who they were buying the stuff for, and so I found I started giving a whole lot of advice more than selling the things. I don't give away the things for free, but I love the advice part.
I know what you mean.
It just, that wasn't my calling in life. And then, but I had the store, and the store was an excellent tool for me to meet people I found that everybody who came into the store, every customer who came in had no clue what they were doing. For the most part, they were because at the time it was mostly for pregnant women and babies. I eventually grew to offering stuff for bigger kids, but in the beginning it started out as babies, and they just didn't know, and they were nervous. I had a lot of first-time mothers. I recently did an interview, and I was telling them that I ended up going to several times. I went to hospital when the mothers would call, because I developed relationships, friendships with a lot of my customers. Father come to the hospital to me, come please help me to put in the car seat. Those things happened. And I found that I was I don't want to say necessarily gifted, but I found that I had the ability to impart knowledge, and my
And you
knowledge,
loved it.
and I loved it. I genuinely
Yes.
loved it. I would sit in the store, Sandra, for hours sometimes. A customer would come in and we would sit and talk about their journey as, you know, through pregnancy, whatever the issues were. And I found that I enjoy that part. And then I just coupled that with, I love to write. And I started doing a newsletter. And then the newsletter just grew to the magazine. And then the magazine grew to events. And you know, we're
Awesome.
yeah. So that would
And
be
what
the
have
key to come
you,
back.
what has been your sweet spot where that journey is concerned?
The children. And it's funny because Owen's son was on, we'd have a fashion show, Island Child Style. It's the premier children's runway show in the Caribbean. And Owen's son was on that show. Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Let me tell you something. You see, when these little children come and they step into a level of confidence and a level of and they don't all come the way Owen's son came, because he's a miniature gentleman. He really is. But we find that these children come shy. They come with a lot of parents send them because the parents are, someone said it earlier, living vicariously through their children. They want the kids to be in the spotlight. But each child who comes in his or her own, with a beauty of themselves, and sometimes they don't even realize it. Because I find that as parents, I don't know if anybody else on the chat, any other parents, find that your child sometimes will flourish in the presence of someone else in your village. So, and I say, like, you have kids who other people see their value, because sometimes as parents,
Absolutely, I know exactly what you mean.
we knock down our kids sometimes without even knowing that we do, but then somebody else will see it. So what happens is that we, as the group of the group of us who put on this show, we are impartial. So we're not coming with, and it's such a deep, I think I'm kind of rambling, because what I really want to say is sometimes we're not parenting the children that we have, we're parenting the children that we want.
Hallelujah.
And by virtue of doing that, we have issues with the kids sometimes. You know, I remember there's a lady that I know, she had 2 children, and one happened to have been lighter skinned than the other. And she really wanted the light skinned children. And she wasn't abusive, but she didn't really like the dark skinned one. And it showed, it affected the child, even though she never came out and said it. But she used to be unkind to her own child. And I eventually, we had these conversations, and it wasn't until a light bulb came on, and we were able to change that. But
she probably wasn't even aware.
She wasn't. She didn't know what it is that she didn't really like, or she didn't want to admit it. But a lot of times as parents, we take out stuff on our kids, whether they remind us, and especially as single parents, you come in like your father.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes
nice man.
A barrier.
You're ugly like your poopa. You're worthless like your poopa.
It happens.
Yeah. And they don't say it nicely.
From the reverse,
away.
Exactly. And what happens is that these children start to develop a lack of confidence, or we tear away at their confidence over and over and over. Now, when do we get these kids? It is just an amazing, all we're looking at is for the positive. We're not there to say, oh, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. We're only looking for the positive. So we are in a privileged position, I say, to put them on a pedestal and tell them great things about themselves. So what happens is that they come alive. These children come and they're suddenly looking at themselves as the most beautiful child ever.
Amazing.
So I remember when Island Child Style started, I coined a phrase that says, the most beautiful child is a confident child. And once you have that child starting to believe in their confidence, they're unstoppable. There's nothing that they cannot do in their own eyes. It's different when a parent says, you're good at this, you're good at that. Because you're supposed to. I mean, I remember looking at my daughter. I tell her every day that she's beautiful every single day, and she said to me, "Mommy, you're supposed to tell me that. You're my mother. It's expected." But when that comes from someone who
Somebody else.
doesn't know you, and it's being affirmed from other sources, you actually start, really? I'm beautiful. And the beauty that we're looking at is not necessarily physical beauty. It's a child who was, Owen spoke about it. We've all spoken about it. The child who is compassionate, they look out for others. And these are things that we can teach our children, but we don't necessarily do it. So I would answer that question and say that my sweet spot is seeing a child go from shy and demure and uncertain to stepping out and just saying, listen, this is me. I'm here. I take up space. I'm here for a reason. And to come into their own. That's an amazing moment. Every time it happens, it's a joyous moment.
Nice. Love that. There's a question for you, Owen. They said you're very impressive is the word. Did you have your dad with you, or did you have a male role model that you emulated? Because you mind to tell the age online?
I'm 30 years young.
30 years young, right? So you'll be in that
Owen, you're 30?
Why hard for manage?
That's insane.
No, Owen, Andrew, please tell Owen that he's not to call me by my first name again. You have to call me Miss or Auntie Michelle.
I'm so sorry.
Or Auntie Michelle.
Youth. So did you have your dad, and was he the role model that you followed, or you emulated somebody else, or you had a village?
So to answer that question, thanks for that question, and thanks for the compliment. I did have my father, Owen Young Sr. He played a very integral role in my life, even though it was not consistent because, separation between mommy and daddy. And I'd have grown up hearing about, oh, your father this and your father that, and would have gotten some amount of resentment based on the separation. And, I bear his name, hence why I've only been called by my nickname, by my mother, but I had the support of both parents, and also other family members. The church was very integral in my upbringing as well, and as Mr. Hunter mentioned earlier, I'm from one of those volatile, depressed communities in Vineyard, an inner city community, and it's pretty much one way. It's like a tunnel, you're only going to do this. You're only going to become a bad man or a thug or a gangster, However, as I said, my father played a very integral role, and primarily my mother. It's like she say, look here, if anything happen, one thing you're not gonna do is become like that. So mentorship, a lady by the name of Mrs. Diane Walker, who was my best friend in college, mother. She became, I guess, a full-fledged, full-on mentor, like, a godmother type thing. And she used to always reiterate this phrase, she said, boy, Owen, if you can't do no good, try not do no bad. And it's like, I was always wonder what she's seeing on me and thing, because, we got into some trouble, and she gave me a book called Gifted Hands by Ben Carson. She was the HR manager for G-Tech Foreign Holdings, and she always encouraged me and, invite me to church and stuff like that. And I'm like, I know I'm a good youth, good intentions, pure at heart, but, I've always been judged based on, where you're from. But this lady, like, she take a chance for me, and she say, you just need little polishing off and little, texture. You're a good youth, but you just need smooth down, right? And it was through that, she invited me and introduced me to corporate Jamaica, where I got my first work experience as a teenager at Supreme Ventures Limited, in New Kingston. And I was like, from my neighborhood and where I'm coming from, and, family members, and no one not being able to go to college or even finish in high school and stuff like that. It was a brand new experience, so I learned through my experiences. I had to tell myself.
What did that do for your mindset, Owen?
It transformed it completely.
The fact that someone who was not your mother, not your father, trusted you,
right,
got you into an environment that you knew nothing about. You saw another side that you probably never thought you could have reached. What did that do for you as a young man?
to be honest, Miss Samuel's words cannot explain, but it was a phenomenal experience, mind blowing. Like, she pretty much took me out of my community, invited me in her home, say, it's show me a different side of Jamaica, pretty much, and I was so humbled by that experience, and that is what pretty much groomed me into the person who I am today, and just constantly reiterating that, you can't rub shoulders with certain persons or shake certain person's hand and still be the same person, because we evolve every single day. You understand? So for me personally, she's one of those persons. She'd be like my beacon then, for example, and to this day, I tell her thanks every single day. Like, for her thanks is never ending. Mrs. Walker, anyway, there in the world, bless up. So that was very impactful. Kiki said earlier about the child or her sons looking up to their father, and when I got my son, he pretty much made me feel like Bruce Wayne. It's like I'm really a superhero, like really, really, really superhero kind of thing. Because it's like this person is just looking at you for every single thing, so you can't slip up. Even though you know good and you know right from wrong, having that person looking at you as their go-to or beginning and end all for everything, it pretty much sets you on a path of, okay, I don't just have this responsibility, but I'm now going to become responsible. I think that's a challenge with a lot of persons. You have the child, but you're not being responsible as a parent. You understand? Even in your jobs or your personal life, whatever it is, relationships, etc. But I think I have traits from both parents. My father was big on volunteerism and, giving back. He went to Africa and, did a lot of charity work and stuff like that. And my mother is a pretty hardworking lady who gives back a whole lot, So I pretty much try to understand them, and as that formulate self-actualization, as Mr. Hunter said earlier, like, you can't tell someone how to be when you really don't know yourself. And so you try to force your children into becoming this, becoming that. So I teach my son, you have to be a thermostat and not a thermometer. You understand? So when you go into a space, you have to change the environment. Your presence has to be felt. You understand? So thanks to even Miss Gordon just now mentioning the Island Child Style. I remember when Owen was a part of that, and they're not just teaching them to go on the runway and model. It's like they're trained for the runway of life. Pretty much. It's like their confidence, the exuberance, the
I
level
like
of
that. Runway of life.
information
Big
is
up yourself.
real, for real. And I've said thanks quite a few times, to Brandon and Norma as well, Miss Williams. But trust me, that's a phenomenal platform as well. So I think once systems are put in place to help support parenting and other soft skills to nurture our children in society, it can be much better. Much better.
Yes,
So you
yes.
had a question?
Back to you, Kiki. You are out there on the ground. How can we fix what's happening with the parents, our parenting, in terms of the mentorship? Because I'm thinking, how can you teach what you do not know? As a mother, as a father, even two parents in the house, and they were not privy to any kind of parenting, or they weren't really privy to, because sometimes two people come together and it's two broken people trying to coexist. I had a conversation with Dr. Samaj in my very early days of Boss Lady Life, and he said a lot of families or a lot of children come into this world by the woman saying to the man, "Me miss my period." There was no relationship. There was no togetherness. It was just a oops. Now, because the person wants to make good of a situation, they try to stick it out and stay together. But it's like oil and water. How can good come from that situation?
We, this
As a
one them one of
counsel.
the things, well, and we that's such a thank you for that question. So first and foremost, this pandemic brought a lot of people to their knees. Those who were not self-aware, who had never gone through any of the things that we have just discussed, whether it's Calvin or Owen or Michelle, you know what I mean? About soul searching and understanding self, you know what I mean? And understanding, hey, what about me that was poured in that I no longer want to subscribe to? What is not working for me? I think this pandemic, for those who were on this self awareness, personal growth journey prior to the pandemic, it would have probably been put to the test during the pandemic, you know what I mean? Of growth and inner growth and change. But those persons who have no awareness at all would have crumbled in the pandemic because of all of these underlying issues. I like to say that we come into this world as a blank canvas, and we're put in the care of either mommy and daddy or mommy alone, or, you know, whoever we're interested in, you know, whose care we're interested in. And what starts happening is that they will start pouring into us before we can even consciously start rejecting what they're pouring in. Yeah. So they're pouring in their dreams, their beliefs, their hopes, their frustrations, their this, their that, you know. And until you come to a point in your life where you stop and look at you and say, all right, let me just see how many traits of my father I have, both good and bad qualities. How much of the traits of mommy do I have, both good and bad? Let me dissect what these things are and really consciously start choosing who I want to be, what I want to be, what I want to continue with. Until that level of awareness happens, the cycle is just going to continuously perpetuate, because we're in a society that kind of teaches us that growing on self or focusing on self is heebie-jeebie. It's only for a certain type of person to do that. You know, mindset. What about mindset when we have JPS for pay and water bill for pay and food for buy? You understand what I talk about? So a lot of us are giving up our divine essence just because society has mandated that we fall into being a hamster on a wheel, as opposed to an entire human being, an entire deity almost unto ourselves. So even, for example, like somewhere in India, where persons are taught the power that they have within them and how to manifest and create, and you know how powerful love is, and how powerful forgiveness is, and understanding, and this whole community where these persons are raised that way is almost like a little piece of heaven on earth, versus where how we are raised oftentimes in Jamaica. It all depends on your social standing. It all depends on, you know, your community, your this, your that. That's almost going to determine where you go unless you break the mold and disrupt it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So until parents, mothers in particular, even more than fathers, have a little bit more of a responsibility to do that soul check, because we're not just birthing a child, we're birthing everything. You
Mhm.
understand? Whoever we are, the brokenness, the wounds, or whatever, we're birthing it in a whole human being. And so we have to become aware of that. I also want to just touch on this. I was a single mother, as I said before, and one of the things I can tell you is that I love my son so much, he will never hear me dog him father. Him not gonna hear me say, yo, your papa workless. Or you're not gonna hear me say, you dislike your papa. Why? Because he's half of his father.
Mhm.
There's some things innate, though he has never spent more than probably a week with his father or whatever. There's some things that are so innate, some mannerisms that you can't even explain. He's not around the man, but him have them. What
Right.
would I in the
Genetics.
world want to say to my child, who is my world, anything negative about his father? No. Does it mean that I'm not telling him, laying the cards on the table, so to speak, in a fair way, non-biased, so he can form his own, you understand, judgment or opinions
Right.
or whatever? Yeah, but you'll never hear me bash. Another thing is I'm in a blended family as well. Yeah. And I remember having to come to a point where as a mother, and as a single mother again, I would have been my son's everything. I would have been that protector. I would have been stomping around him like I was a lion and not realizing Kerry, you're not a lion, you're a lioness. And now there's a lion in the picture. You have to fall back and allow this lion to do what a lion needs to do in order to raise this cub. Because one of the things that we miss completely, especially as mothers of boys, is that we look at our sons and think, oh my God, it's the baby, it's my baby. No, you are raising a man, and a man has to go out there and be a lion. You cannot raise a boy as a cub forever. You can't baby him forever. You understand? Because you have to understand.
Absolutely.
You have to start speaking to him with respect from early out. You have to start grooming him a certain way. You understand? Let him, as Owen said, gain that confidence, do the affirmations, whatever it is you need. You are putting a man out there who is going to continue. You understand? Generations to come, so to speak. And then the final thing that I'd like to say where that's concerned and how we can do better is this concept that women are nags has got to stop. This concept that women talk whole heap and and fathers oftentimes pass it down to the sons. What we have to say as women is oftentimes beneficial. We're intuitive for a reason. We might have more words, yeah, but when you look at it, sometimes it's just how we use the words. We might use our words all throughout the day, and a man might come home and don't use no words throughout the day, or use all his words in the day and then come home in the evening and don't use none, or use it all in the day and come home in the, you know what I mean? It's like it's
Right.
how we use our words. We both talk, both genders talk. But the fact is, when a mother is trying to groom her son a particular way, I think it is very important, especially if the father is in the picture, to understand where the mother is coming from and maybe explain it to the child, man to man, how it go, as opposed to, Lord, is just mommy. Because oftentimes I think that most of the valuable lessons that we see, that we pick up on, that we sense, that we understand how this can affect a child in the future, that men are not able to see 10 steps down the line. When we say it, and I'm gonna say, Lord, that is what mommy say. Best believe if it's not addressed in that moment by both parents, it's going to come to pass. Yeah, so it's very important for us to check ourselves, become very aware, especially as parents. You have to soul search, or else you're just going to continue this horrible cycle. You have to heal as quickly as you can, especially as a parent, because it's going to continue. If you're a single parent, try not to bash the child's parent, whether mother or father. If you're a blended family, understand the dynamics of that. Express your concerns to your partner. Maybe you don't trust that the partner will be able to take care of the child, or like as a parent, you have a gauge. I don't know if all parents can agree here that there's an internal gauge. So even if you're disciplining your child, there's supposed to be a gauge that will stop you from taking it back, because it's that internal compass. And maybe a step parent might not have that gauge. So there are concerns about that. But express the concerns, support the step parent, and allow them to step more into the role of why they're there. And then the final thing is, don't always think that women are nags, man. We have very valuable lessons that we need to teach our children, and men have to be supportive of it.
Absolutely. Well said. Mr. Hunter, I want to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room. Well, I don't know about anybody else on the panel, but maybe it's because I'm in the business of men. My focus is always on the male gender. I'm noticing a level of anger towards women. I would say maybe in the last 7 to 10 years. I want to ask you, as a man, a responsible man, a man who's a father of girls. One, are you seeing it? Two, what does it do to a man when he cannot afford to take care of his family and a woman continuously uses it to either keep him away from the child, bash him workless, him this, him that? What does that do to a man with regards to wanting to be a part of a family unit?
Well, that absolutely tears a man apart. I mean, if you think about it, Kiki just mentioned one side of the coin where men have over the years, over time, have seemed to put a stereotype as on women as being nags, which is unfortunate. And because culturally as well, especially here in Jamaica, we have this thing that we have a lot of worthless man and we have absent fathers. It sometimes gives rise to women not allowing the man to play the role of a father, probably because he's not able to provide for her and the child the way he should be able to provide. And as I said earlier, a big part of the problem sometimes is that two people meet, and before you know it, there's a child involved. So there was no plan. There was no, and we go along that road, and the woman tends to, in some cases, as you were asking, hold this against the man, and that absolutely tears him apart. Because growing up in high school, growing up going into primary school, high school, you would realize that bullying happens in our culture a whole lot, and in fact it's acceptable. We have made bullying normal. We have normalized bullying and name calling, and it is, I think, along the lines of what you would be saying, where the woman is keeping the man out and saying certain hurtful things continuously to the man. If you think about it, if somebody has one arm in our culture, we call him one. If a person is dark skinned, we call him blacker. And those things, when internalized now, cause emotional hurt. So the men now get hurt and turns away from the child. And in that situation, it's the child that suffers. You mentioned earlier as well, your
But they
question
turn away from a child because they don't want to deal with the mother because they feel bad about themselves. Why do they turn away from the child?
well, it's a
So the
combination.
child not have nothing to do with it.
No, but they wouldn't see it as that. That man wants to be validated. That man's and sometimes it's not a question of whether they deserve to be validated, because how we measure it is that we see the man as the provider. And if in a relationship the man is not providing, then what is his purpose? But his purpose, a big part of his purpose, is to provide love and care for the child. So there has to be a separation where, yes, there's an encouragement for him to go out and provide. But while that is not happening, then the child still has needs. And there still should be an opportunity to provide that care for the child. So,
But Mr. Hunter, it's easier, as they would have said, it's easier said than done. When you look on the school fee,
oh, yes,
the snacks money,
yeah.
the lunch money, the bus fare, the
Where your, so
uniform
where
money,
your question started,
you
where your
blank
question
and
started,
how do you balance that? How do you balance having to do all of that and still main, trying to maintain that level of respect and understanding for the father of the child? And no, it must be done.
yes,
But the woman is human and she's under pressure.
yeah.
How does one cope under a situation like that?
It's next to impossible, really. And if you look around, you see it, and that's part of why we have a lot of single parent families, because there is a misalignment, a misunderstanding of the expectations. So if the man cannot provide, then as I said earlier, what's his purpose? And
No,
we
but
don't.
even without, Mr. Hunter, and I can tell
Yeah.
you speak for my mother. My
Hmm.
mother was never one to ask for a dollar. But my father did not step up. So you still have, is it that there is an anticipation that if you come around, money will be required? I don't understand because many people are like that. You, some women are not volatile, but
True.
yet still, the man still doesn't come around. But there is still, these are my children.
Can
I
I say
don't
something?
understand that mindset.
So I just
Yes,
wanted to say
Kiki.
something. We're in terms of, it's always been said that a man is supposed to provide, and men oftentimes associate their value and their worth towards that. And that's what I'm saying. Like when Owen said it earlier, that he made a decision. He said it. He said, I made a decision that I wanted to be there for my child. And I'm sure if it was one ice mint when I got broken at two and dropping in some hot water for make some mint teeth, so him and Junior can ensure that they have something in them stomach, he would do it because he would understand that the importance is not just how much I can provide, but how much of myself I am able to provide for this child. We don't explain to them that we value their worth. Because again, it's almost like they're associated with their paycheck. So again, it's almost like we're giving them a cop out, You know what I mean? In a weird way. It's almost like the man are gonna say, yo, I don't know say if I can't provide, me not really worth it for them anyway. Understand? So before I go around them and cause them no stress, I just go about my business. And it's so much easier. Now, if you change the narrative and say, no, you are who I need. Your time is what I need. I need to see you bonding with the child. I need you to show up here, even if you don't have a dime, and ensure that this child is connected with you. It will come. You know what I mean? That's where you start changing the narrative in terms of building relationships. That's what we really need. It's not just about the money. It's relationships that's missing. And also, I love what Owen said when Owen said, respect. You see that something there? Respect ourselves, respecting others.
Can I just say something though, Kerry?
Yes.
I really feel that yes, there's a part of me that feels that there's a generation that we've lost, and that generation would be the older generation in terms of stepping up to the plate, recognizing that okay, things went wrong before, but now I'm going to make that decision to make a change now. I don't know how many men, and let's choose an age range, 40 plus, and they're not doing it. They're set in their ways.
Right,
but we have a valuable opportunity now, us, this generation of parents, to make that change. And I see where that change. You have parents now, Owen at age 30, who has made a conscious decision that he's not going to be a part of that side.
Yep.
He's not going
30
to
minus 7.
So
you made a decision at 23.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So that decision was made. It's a conscious decision. But the men who are not in that age group and not in that age range, they're not doing it. So I feel like we're almost belaboring that point.
We did miss a generation only because, again, number one, Calvin was exposed. Calvin is from the inner city, yeah? But Calvin was exposed, whether it was through reading, mentorship, whatever it was, there was someone there to expose him to something that would make him see things a little bit differently. You understand? Now let's take someone for example, my father, or even the generation after my father. Them don't know nothing about go Google nothing about self-help or mental health or this or that or whatever. Them just know so them supposed to work, show up and provide, and if them can't work, show up and provide, then it's doomsday. You know what I mean? You know, much of them sit down and go depressed. And like for me, I grew up with my father in my household. He was depressed. Why? Because he wasn't able to always provide. You understand? And it came out inside. He was suffering with mental issues, psychotic rage, and the whole 9 yards. You want to know what I would have preferred, as opposed to my father struggling in Kingston to make it for us? I'd love if he did take over the country and I had my father without stress, just my father. Because parents' love is what it all boils down to.
Okay, so without, I mean,
no, you know, so you have some men who just really don't care. So I understand what you say. You have some men.
No, that's not what I'm saying, because I believe, and I'm going to be very open and this is very personal for me, because my situation with my ex-husband is it's not very far from that.
Yeah.
And I have said to him, I mean, the reason for the breakup is completely separate and apart, but where we're at now, I keep saying, just spend time with them.
Yeah.
Just go spend time with them.
Yep.
And it is there's a certain group. I mean, he's a countryman. My husband come from country. He didn't have nothing to do with town. And in his mind, I believe that he definitely is linking his ability to provide with the respect he's going to earn from his children. And a lot of men feel that way. And I keep saying, you cannot keep holding on to that, because you're losing your children. They're growing up without your presence. They're growing up without, and I believe he loves his children. I know he does. But there's something in the brain of that generation that feels that they cannot be, if you can't provide, your purpose isn't, you have no purpose. I don't know how to change it, and that is the truth. I don't know how to change that. Huh?
Yeah, but then some men are selfish. What I'm saying, like some men, you can't even put everybody in a group, but you know, you do have some men who love their children, right? But some men have a particular lifestyle outside of being a father, and it gives them a certain amount of freedom. And so, in terms of going for the freedom and enjoying themselves and coming to look for their children, you can tell where their priorities lie. So sometimes we just need to call a
But
spade a
Kerry, I also believe that that comes from a generation of mothers or a generation, and it's mothers, a generation of mothers who spoiled their children and there was no accountability.
There you go.
There-
There you
we-
go. They weren't taught how
there's
to
a,
be responsible.
when
And
you
so they
raise
have
a
Right.
kids
child,
willy-nilly
when
and
a
have
child
children
is
and not
spoiled
responsible.
and they feel that, you know, there's always a way out, they're entitled to whatever, they're not going to be able to function well. So there's a generation
That
of
is
people, and
true.
I see it when you spoke about the demands of you're raising your kids, but there's a part of you that feels that you're still raising the kid in your house, in your husband. um it is a reality. A lot of
Yeah.
men and women to a certain extent, and I'm not bashing men, I'm not a
Love
male basher, that's not
them.
my
No, no, but
Love
no,
them.
the reality is the reality.
Yeah.
It
and
has
one
to
of
do
the
with
things that
their
I want to
upbringing.
point out, true, one of
Mhm.
the things I want to point out, and I think Kerry had said it earlier, I have never, when my marriage broke up and we got divorced, I vowed to myself I would never, ever, ever badmouth my husband to my children. They've never heard me speak badly of their father, ever, and they're 17 and 13. If I have something to say, because we've had issues, if I have something to say, Kerry get a lot of it. She get the calls, or there are other people, but it's not going to go to the children.
Right.
Um, but this lack of responsibility, to me, there's a point where you get to, as a grown-up man or woman, where you have to stop blaming your childhood. You have to stop blaming the things that happen and do what is necessary.
I can interject some humor there. When I had that conversation with my dad at 78, God rest his soul, at 78, I said, Dad, didn't you ever think, I mean, and my father was not far, he was in Mandeville, but I said to him, I said, Dad, didn't you think of how we eat, how we sleep, how we wear uniform? He said, Sandra, your mother was working. And I was
Right.
like, 78, right? And I'm like,
That's what I'm saying.
and
There's some men who think
when I went
women are
into it, and I
supposed to
said
do
to
it.
him, yeah, but when I went into it, and I said to him, I said, but you had 3 kids, you weren't really involved. So you explain that. And at first he blamed his dad. I said, Dad, you're 78. When that didn't work, he blamed his friends. All his friends were married. He never married. When that didn't work and I drill it down, then he went to the devil. So what I'm saying is it's always somebody else's fault.
And
It's
that
never
comes from a lack of accountability. When you spoil
he
kids,
was the life of the party whenever they went out. He was the home for the single people when they want the single man home that all the fun happened there. He never married. He had 3 kids, and we each. I mean, I think I can bless him because I kind of grew up very independent and strong, but I also had to do a lot of counseling. And let me put it out there. You need counseling when you go through all these things because there are, I have this book that's called the Daddy Hole in Your Heart. There are gaps when you don't grow up either with a mentor of the opposite sex, which luckily for me, I had a few along the way because you search for validation and those things if you don't get it at home during the whole parenting experience. My mother never said a right word about my father. As a matter of fact, she loved him until the day she died. But my thing was there was no accountability on his part, and I had a problem with it.
But
Sandra,
She
may
there's
I,
a
didn't
may I,
question.
may I throw in, may I throw in something provocative here? May I?
Yes.
Think about it. When I heard of my grandfather and how men used to be back in the days, and it goes back I think, to slavery and before. What used to happen? The women used to stay home and take care of the family, and the men used to be the ones out in the field working.
Yeah, but we have
So,
we have
hold on,
gone.
and that's what I'm saying. What it was just highlighted. As the generations change, we have moved away from that some. We have now gotten into a space where there's women's rights, women's equality. The women are much better leaders in many spheres. And now the home is not anymore like we had many years ago, where it was just the woman at home and she would have. My grandmother had, I think, 10 children. If you think about back in the day, the woman was just staying
Right.
home having children. So with time, it has changed, and with generations, it has improved. And with the continuation of things of this nature, of parenting month, of the parenting commission, of men like Owen speaking to men his age
Or
group
books
and
like
encouraging
B3
them.
Parenting.
Yeah, it is going to take many years to happen, but slowly and surely we see where men are trying a little more,
Yes, I
especially.
agree with that.
I can speak to that
There's
because
a
I can see a lot of them at my shop.
yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of dads have really well. My little unit is not a big cross section of Jamaica, but
yeah,
I am seeing effort.
yeah.
Yeah, you're saying something, Michelle.
Yeah, no, there's a someone has a question in the chat and she's asking which situation is better.
Yes,
I've said
well,
that.
I wouldn't say better. I
Well,
would
no,
say which one is
actually,
worse.
well,
I
I
would
would
say
say
an
better.
absent dad or an inconsistent dad.
Absolutely.
You
An
wanna
absent
take
dad
that,
is better than an
Calvin?
inconsistent.
Eh?
I believe an absent father is better than an inconsistent father. That's my take on it.
Because you grow up, and I can speak for
Listen,
myself.
the level of
You grow up
confusion
with
and
trust issues.
inconsistency. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sandra.
Come off, Owen, and come back in. You're circling. No, I'm saying I agree with you wholeheartedly, because when they're inconsistent, it makes you have serious trust issues. When they say they're going to do something and don't do it, and it's consistently not done, that is huge.
Come on, it's confusing. It's confusing
It's
to a child.
confusing. It is confusing. And so I am definitely in agreement with you there. When they're absent, them know I'm not there, and that's it.
Yeah, so
I mean,
you're able to manage your
and
expectations
there's
when he's
some kind of
absent.
stability with a role model somewhere else, but the inconsistency is the worst, I think. My
Absolutely.
opinion.
Yeah.
What is a Kiki?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree
What is a
because
Calvin?
an
Yeah,
absent father is different.
based on what
Yeah.
I've seen and heard, yeah.
More damage happens with inconsistency because you're playing with someone's emotions. Hot, cold, missing, present. It's like you just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can't, you're afraid to trust.
Yeah.
I have
I'd love to hear
serious, I have what I went to counseling for: abandonment issues, trust issues, looking for love in all the wrong places. Those are some of the things, because you want to be validated by a man, or you want to feel chosen. That's a big one for me. You want to feel as if you are chosen.
I'd love
Somebody
to know
choose you
Owen.
to
I'd love to
spend
hear
the
what Owen
time with
has to say
you.
because we haven't heard from him in a while, and I know with him being,
Yes,
we're talking about the
yes.
generational
Oh,
gap, but
Yes,
I'd love to hear what Owen has to say.
yes.
certainly. Thank you. Sorry about that. So there's a few points earlier, as Mr. Hunter mentioned. I think it's almost like a stereotype because I mean, in courting or nowadays you go out, everything is attached to something, So I'm not just Owen Young, I'm either attached to Sagicor or a Scotia, just naming some companies. So your line
Right,
of work, your position in the job, the type of vehicle you drive, where you live, rent, mortgage type of thing. So everything kind of has some dollar sign or
value.
currency attached association,
Mm-hmm.
value to you as an individual, not your
Mm-hmm.
characteristics, not your traits, not your personality, pretty much. I mean, everybody can dress nowadays and put themselves together for the most part. So when things escalate and persons get involved intimately, and then a child comes forth, as you mentioned, pregnancy these days are about, I missed my period. And those calls are very much real, are those text messages, so
Text
things
message.
change. The person's job situation,
Yeah, keep it real.
the person's job situation, I'm about, I'm speaking
You're
about,
breaking up.
and I'm speaking for the,
Not hearing you.
yeah.
You mute. Unmute and come back. Unmute. Mm-hmm.
Are you guys hearing me?
Hearing you now. Yeah.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, when the situation changes, you're no longer who you were to the person. So it's like your core values, your entire being, your existence is no non-existent, because then you probably have to move. You don't have a job anymore, and it's very sad, and it's a two-sided coin. You know, some persons are really responsible and will want to try. However, based on brought up, see, you know, get a man that can provide for you. So girls grow up on this, a man that can provide, someone that's responsible. And not responsible in being there in terms of the time factor that we speak about, which is most imperative than but him being able to pay for the medical expenses, pay the buy food or feeding, etc. And that can away from a man, especially with how he was raised. Maybe he was
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a single parent home. Hello,
Yeah, I hearing you.
what is going
We're
on?
hearing you.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Right. So there are
Mm.
many different factors, and I do believe that there's a generation gap.
Gone again. Gone again. Well, until he comes back in, anybody wanted to say anything on that? Okay, gone.
Um,
All
I
right,
don't know.
here he is. Hold on, here he is. Yeah. Go
So okay,
ahead,
are you
Devon.
guys hearing me now?
Yeah, man.
I'm not sure what's going on my end. No, there are several different factors, and when as a male, for example, so I'm speaking for and against, for females and for males as well. You're brought up in a single parent home, and probably your father wasn't one who was providing, and then you are told. So you had one of those mothers that pretty much tell you about your father's and his inability to provide for you financially, you know, and it kind of affects your overall stature. So a lot of men are pretty much living with scars because one, they never seek counseling, they don't have someone to confide in,
Mm-hmm.
and no one pretty much saw the need to help. So what do that person do? Seek the love from other females. And when it don't work with this girl, another girl will console you. Oh, she alright, she can go on. But there are other persons out there who I guess has a stronger ability to say, hey, what I'd have been through or what I see other persons going through, I don't want this for my situation. So it
Right.
comes to a deeper level of consciousness and just accountability, as Kiki mentioned earlier. You have to make some sacrifice within yourself, because at the end of the day, like, all of us have our own table of content chart within ourselves. Like, this is what I am, this is what I'm about. Are there certain things that you just never do? That gauge within yourself, or a compass. We know that I'll never ever do this. Which is why you get up every day and say you have to make sure that your children are okay, or your child is okay. You understand? Wherever your responsibilities lie, whether your wife or your husband. But I do believe that parenting, for some reason, it's trending. Persons are
Mm-hmm.
actually taking more pride in their children. I see that
Yeah.
more often now than before. So this
Mm-hmm.
generation, for the most part, I believe, for the most part, and I might be wrong, persons are more involved. So even in I guess, separated situations where the mother might have the child. There are times when the father get the child and, I'm going to take some pictures with him daughter and bring her out. And so there's more of a co-parenting bond as it being cohabited in the space right now. It's not a case where youngsters are turning their backs completely and saying, I don't want the child, I don't want anything to do with the mother. There are more persons being mediators now in the situation to say, hey, regardless, is a child. So for what it's worth, they'll try to be involved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But it takes guidance and counseling, and I believe that all of us be that we all have a responsibility to be that bridge, to be that compass or that roadmap, or
Or giving a what?
through our examples, what we're doing.
All right.
You
Michelle,
got that?
I didn't hear the last thing you said, Owen. Didn't hear the last thing you
Yes,
said.
I was saying that I think we all have a responsibility, just to be that guide or that compass for someone else, through our examples and what we're doing, to pretty much show someone that it can be done. Because what a lot of persons are lacking in it is just hope. Being in a situation or a space where, boy, this my girl comes here, or this happened all along. So we just continue the cycle, the same hamster and the wheel kind of thing. So until this is someone else who pretty much made it from the same situation and is doing good, like husband and wife, or single parent, but being responsible for the child or practicing co-parenting, they can say, no, say it can work because persons live through that, so that works.
Thank you so much, Owen. Perfect. Michelle, I saw some beautiful pictures of you and your generation. What is that like? I mean, what is that like to have that grandma and grandpa and how does that, what does that feel like? What does that look like? What does that, well, I know what it look like, but what does that feel like? I mean, get the knowledge coming from way up, coming down to the end of the stream.
So I love that question. Family is everything. It has always been everything to me. I am the product of two big families. Both of my parents are from they were all out of eight siblings on either side.
Wow.
So we have a lot of cousins. But family is such an interesting dynamic because not everybody gets along, not everybody like each other, But my nucleus, which would be my parents, and I am grateful that I still have my parents here. I still have their guidance every day. And it's funny, I had a conversation with a cousin last night who, we were out and daddy called me just to check, you guys okay? And it's just savoring those moments. And I would want to say to anybody, as we raise our children, we're being raised as parents, but our parents are also, it's a continuum, and we're moving on every step of the journey. We're moving towards a place where we're not going to be here at some point.
Right.
And it's important for me, it's very important for me to honor that every single day, by whether it's a phone call with mommy or daddy, keeping in touch with my sister. And I'm trying to teach that to my children. I think they know how important it is, because when my grandparents were here, I wasn't very close on my father's side, but on my mother's side, there's so much wisdom and the stories, and you don't know this. There's a saying that we have: you don't know where you're going till you know where you're coming from. And just to know where our roots are, I believe it's very, very important. The support. My village grew out of my family and has subsequently grown to friends, but family is, we don't choose them. We know that we don't choose them, but I am so blessed to have, the truth is, so when we separated or when we got divorced, my father stepped up sometimes too much, because he felt very responsible he felt like he had to overcompensate for my husband's absence. And I have been very careful not to try to hurt his feelings because he's doing what he feels he needs to do. That generation of men, so the grandparent level, we got it right. My husband's generation, there was something amiss, but we're trying to bring it back. My father is the most phenomenal human being to walk the face of this planet. And I try to take from him all of the wisdom that comes with him. So he's trying to overdo it, and he doesn't think he's overdoing it. But for me, there's a fine line with spoiling the kids. And I think those the grandparents spoiling the kids, it happens because they're allowed to. But because my father does so much for me and for my children, I try to gauge it and to monitor it because I don't want to spoil my kids. But he's very involved. Literally, my parents live 2 minutes from my house, so they're here every single day. It's recognizing the blessing and honoring that blessing and helping my kids to realize that there's value. I believe that old people, and my parents are not old people. My mother would kill me if she ever heard that term. But the wisdom that comes with age cannot be. It can't be replicated. It comes from experience. So when somebody is 75 and 80 and 90 and they still have their faculties and they're still able to share and to guide, that's the greatest gift. There's beauty in age and there's beauty in youth. We know in the middle, we left one section, we'll go into the other, and we kind of lose it sometimes. But I'm blessed that I still have that. And anybody who still has their parents around, you have old people around, seniors who you can learn from, take advantage of it because it's the greatest gift in passing on that knowledge. And the truth is, that's what we're doing now. It's part of a legacy building, and all of us are leaving some form of a legacy. We just have to be very aware of the type of legacy that we're leaving. You know, are you leaving a legacy of violence and anger and frustration, or are you leaving a legacy that you want your children to build on a foundation that is going to be solid and help to furnish the next sets of generations. So I'm grateful for having my parents here still, and I thank God for them. I don't do it every day because sometimes it's, as I say, it's frustrating. It's just a part of relationships, but not that I'm even thinking it out. I'm going to call them after this just to big them up and remind them of how precious they are. Yeah.
All right. So since you're on the floor, we must wrap now. Say 5. Give me 5 of your 5 tips, 5 pieces of advice. I want that from everybody. So while she's speaking, everybody can think of theirs. There's 5 takeaways from your whole parenting journey, having to even in your work with the B3 magazine. Tell us where also we can get your magazine. And
okay, thank you.
Is it online? Is it online? You know,
we have another issue of B3 coming out. The first thing, because B3 has been on a little bit of a hold, but we have an issue coming out soon. A very special, because it's almost 10 years of B3 now. But and I'm found at Boss Mom Network on Instagram. There's a website, bossmomnetwork.com, and my personal page is B3 Boss Mom. My advice, and this is advice that I have learned through experience. The first thing for any single parent, any parent at all, and when I say single parent, I don't mean single as in not married. Every single parent, put yourself first. You have to take care of yourself. And as
one
much as
cannot pour from an empty vessel.
You cannot pour from an empty cup. And I always give the analogy, Sandra, from flying, where if there's a decompression, you pull your oxygen mask first, because if you don't put it on first, you will not live. You will not survive to take care of others. So you must take care of yourself. I don't know if I can find a full 5, but I know my second one is communicate with your children. Make sure you keep the doors of communication open, just in any other relationship, but with your children, no matter their age or stage, you have to keep talking, keep it open, let you go to them, let them come to you. Keep the trust flow going so that communication will be real. Outside of that, those are my 2. If I had to say 2 things,
I did 2. All right, no, that's fine.
I'm not give you 5. Keep communication open and find your balance. Keep it. You have to keep yourself sane. Find whatever works for you, whether it's going to be yoga or church, whatever works for you. What's happening there? Going
No,
crazy.
man, I'm hearing you.
Oh,
Nothing
yeah.
happened.
Find your comfort zone. For me, every morning I wake up, I have a cup of coffee every single morning, and I kind of just zen before the children wake up and just kind of figure out my day, talk to God, find some balance before the day starts. And then I keep talking throughout the day,
Right.
every single day.
Okay, great. Thank you. Owen?
Thank you.
Yes. So my 5 pointers for parenting, I have to big up my mother, for this one. And Michelle said something just now that was Miss Gordon. My apologies. That was very, very important, because that process is like it was so vivid, and like I was saying it in my mind because as parents, we teach our children or our child, and at the same time, we have to sometimes teach our parents because really and truly, them really never have it all figured out. So even as a parent right now, I'll be, teaching my mom some things like, say, mom, and I really say it's supposed to go really so. Because sometimes they don't, based on lack of knowledge and not knowing any better, they just do
At
what
the
they
time.
saw or what they saw. But at the same time, we know of this opportunity being in the middle, passing the knowledge downwards and also upwards. So that's very, very important. But my 5 takeaways are, as she'd always say to me, say, manners and respect carry through the world. My mother always instilled that in me. So regardless of where you're from, your level of intellect, your financial status, one thing that persons can always relate to from any different race is principles. Once you're respectful, mannerable, that works. So even if somebody don't speak the same language as you, you say good morning or, gestures, soft skills, those are very important. Respect, respect, key. Just respect yourself. And I believe that once you see yourself as someone that's important, you want others to see you that same way, and then you start to see others the same way and treat them in that particular manner. Also, communication, very, very, very important. Not just about speaking, but practice active listening. I think Mr. Hunter said it earlier, and as a behavior change consultant, most of the times these students are children that act out in schools. They're just really crying out for help. They just want someone to hear what their side is. They just need a filter. So sometimes just lend your ears to a situation or to someone can make a world of difference because they just need to offload. Miss Gordon said a while ago that she drinks coffee in the morning and just kind of meditate zen. I think persons, each and every one of us should find a responsible filter. And why I say a responsible filter, you don't want to say, okay, I go out and drink, but then you get overdose or you're drunk or you smoke too much. You understand? But there's certain things that persons need to do to take themselves away from a situation, kind of center themselves a little bit. And that helps with the whole self-actualization process. Because if you don't know yourself, and we're still figuring out ourselves every single day, you have to kind of find that me time. I think Kiki said it earlier. It's like we're taught that selfishness or being self is a bad thing, but it's actually the most important thing because then you'll end up spreading yourself so thin, and then you become nothing in the atmosphere. Other than providing some amount of substance or energy or life to others. So I think knowing yourself and finding that balance is very, very, very important. And thank you profusely, all of you, for the information that you shared. Mrs. Samuels, Miss Samuels, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Owen. Calvin.
Oh, wow. Well, the baseline is recognition and love. That's the baseline. And however you choose to deliver that to your children, whatever way, an interesting thing is that you can't just use a band-aid and it's not a one size fits all. It's how that child receives that love and receives that recognition. There's something, the golden rule that says, um, do unto others as they have them do unto you. But it's a little tricky because it would not be, it probably is as they would have you do unto them. Because
Right.
you might have a child that is auditory, but you continue to touch that child, and that isn't the way that child experiences love. So it's the way the person or the child wants you to do unto them. So love and recognition is the baseline, underlying thing that I would say you have to give to your children.
Sorry about
Children
that.
follow your actions more than your words. It has been proven
Absolutely.
time and again. So we continue to talk and talk and talk, but without the affirmation, without the doing, without being there and showing them how it's done and being a part of the change, it won't happen. So that's another important thing to do that. Make sure that your words are aligned with your actions. And then, as I mentioned before, the firm, fair, and friendly bit. So being firm, so the consequences should be clearly stated and adhered to with the appropriate behavior. So you have to be firm, not with a capital punishment because we've moved away from that, all being well, but be fair. So the punishment should fit the crime. And if it's recurring behavior, as Owen said, you can find counselors. But we are blessed now, we're in our school system. Most schools have guidance counselors. We have in the churches, we're a Christian society. So we have ways of getting that kind of support. So in order to be fair, you use simple things. Timeout don't really work too much in our culture, but the harsh words is what we want to kind of move away from as well because it does scar our children. So we have to find different ways. It may be taking away that phone from them. I found that to be a blessing. It's a superpower. No man, taking away the game or the phone for a period of time, that's one of my superpowers. So you have to use different things to get to your children. And be friendly, not necessarily be a friend, be friendly. So the communication, you're nice with them, you're friendly with them, but when it's that time, as you can see on Michelle's face, when it's time, as Kiki said, when I'm serious, when I say I'm serious, I'm serious. And I'd close off by saying, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you are the world. And that's how children see us as parents. You are their world. They are looking up to you for everything in this world, as Owen said earlier. So you have to step up to the plate. And it's difficult. There's the pandemic, there's financial challenges, relationship thing. But at the end of the day, you have this human being who you have to take care of. And depending on the stage, the communication is critical because they have to understand too that life ain't easy, life ain't rosy. You're not trying to show them that life is all good and everything is going to be fine every time. The blessing is that you can teach them that through the struggles, you can still be happy because that's how I goes. Happiness for me is it. You teach them how to have peace of mind depending on their age and stage. You teach them that happiness begins with you and don't wait on other people to pour happiness into you. You have to develop those mechanisms and you have to deliver happiness for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I leave the wrap up to you. I got up a while ago, Kiki, because I could have swear your book was on my coffee table, but
Oh,
it looked like I moved it. It must be in my bedroom. So you
no.
don't have. Do you have a copy there? Because that's gonna try and show them the cover that they go out and get a copy of your book.
Oh my
Because
God,
you know,
thank you.
yes,
You know,
yes.
to be
So it's
honest
a
with you,
good
I'm in the
read.
middle. Listen, I'm in the middle of upgrading and renovating the house. Everything is upside down. Can I tell you? So, and I'm actually going to be doing an upgrade of the book, a relaunch. I
Okay,
completed it. So it's gonna be
okay,
out early next year. But thank you so much.
okay.
I love you. I love you. I love you. Blessings to, of course, Michelle. Gentlemen, blessings to you. My takeaways would be this. First and foremost, it's healing the wounds, healing the brokenness. In any relationship that you're in, once you do this, you always say when you're pointing at someone, the four fingers come back at you. If I'm vibrating and functioning on this level, I can only attract and be compatible with someone else who is vibrating on this level. Yeah. So therefore, while I'm busy saying, "Oh my God, it's his fault and he's doing this or whatever," it means there's some things about me I need to also check to see why I would have attracted this person in my life. Because if someone is vibrating up here, there. There's no way we can meet each other that way. It's almost like a giraffe trying to have a conversation with an ant. It just won't work. So if there's anything wrong in your relationships, your personal, encounters, whatever it is that seems to have you up in a bunch or feels toxic to you or whatever, stop and look at you first. You understand? Don't always be so quick to point the fingers, because again, it might very well be you. Heal the wounds, man. Heal the wounds, especially even before the parenting journey starts. If that's possible, that's going to be great. Once you heal the wounds, you have to learn how to forgive, because you're going to have to forgive those who imparted incorrect knowledge to you or incorrect beliefs to you about who you are. And you have to go forgive yourself for actually believing these limiting beliefs. Whether it's people and society telling you, so you come from this era, so that's how you must behave, and this is your future, and this is your destiny, or whether it's your parent or whoever it is saying, you're not going to amount to anything, or this or that, or, just in general, all external forces that have led you to believe incorrect things about yourself. You have to go stop it. You have to go leave it alone and learn how to forgive them. And more importantly, start forgiving yourself for even believing it, behaving that way, becoming this thing that you really aren't. After you forgive, you have to go find the self-love. And you have to go define that for you. What does that look like for you? You know what I mean? Male or female, identify what the self-love looks like for you. Then you have to reparent yourself. You're going to have to literally take time and reparent yourself. And then when you reparent yourself, if you are a parent, then at that point, you're going to have some honest conversations with your children about damage that you possibly would have, done to them. Take that burden away from them if you can, because the worst thing ever is to have a child who was born into this world pure, with full of life, full of goals, dreams, visions, even bigger than what you can imagine. And you just rob this child, you know what I mean, of the belief that they can achieve certain things. And then have them living almost like a mediocre life, based on what they were put here to do. So you're going to have to have some real honest conversations with the child and free them up, man. Free them up from that burden and let them know, no, you are the one that was projecting your issues on them, and let them live. And those would be my 5, takeaways. So you have to go, as I say, heal the wounds. You have to go learn to forgive. You have to do the self-love. You have to reparent you, and you have to have honest communications with the children. And yeah, I just think that would be it.
Well, folks, it has been 2 hours and 15 minutes, but I would say it was worth every second, because it really is a large topic to cover. And that's why I didn't want one viewpoint, because how one parents is not how another one parents. How one was brought up is not how another one was brought up. And I mean, I don't have any children, no biological children myself. Yes, Mish?
When you finish, I just have a quick thing to throw in.
Yes. I don't have any biological children myself, but I have grown many. I have mentored many in my work sphere. And so my work sphere and my community service sphere. And listen, I know boy work. And a boy work and a girl work. A big people business. Because every child is different. Every child is different. And I don't remember who said it. It was Michelle or Calvin who said it. That, or could have been Kiki. That coming up, there are some damages. And as you become an adult, you have to take responsibility for yourself. You can't be a child. You can't continue to be a child. I mean, it's hard. But you have to recognize, first thing is knowing yourself. You have to recognize that there was some damage there, like how I recognized it and the pain that I was going through. And that I had to get counseling, because my ultimate goal for myself is happiness, internal happiness. Not happiness with things and happiness with somebody else, but happiness with myself, spending time with myself, loving myself, being happy with who I am and who I have become. So these are some of these things that you really have to focus on before you can even touch the parenting thing, because otherwise from that you can't really function very well as a parent. So these are some of the takeaways that I got from you as well. I mean, cement in my mind that those hours spent getting counseling and kind of right-siding myself, which everybody needs to do. Look here, counseling not make for dog. Counseling make for human being. People that went to school. I mean, some of the things that I remember going through counseling and the peeling back and things that you thought was the problem wasn't even the problem. You were making this a problem, this an issue, but it's something else was the issue. When my counselor said to me, "Why are you trying to live your mother's life?" And I'm like, "Huh? What do you mean?" I never saw it that way because I wanted to fix everything that went wrong in her life by trying to do what she was doing the right way, or supposedly in my mind the right way. But everybody do them thing them own way, and everybody have a different view of what happiness is, and what prosperity is, and what love is, what love look like. My mother's love language was to cook, right? So everybody's love language is different. So these are all some of the things that we really have to read about. You have to read, seek knowledge, have these conversations like what we're having now. Not just talk about light stuff. You know, have a once a month parenting powwow. Where, you know, how you manage that? How you manage grow 4 boy picnic and me can't even grow one? You know, that kind of thing. We have to bring it back to the community. All about going back to the dining table. We have to bring that back into the home. As there's a lot bad about COVID, but there was also a lot good about COVID as well. Bringing the family back together. Some of these things we really have to know, put it and be very conscious about what we are doing to build relationships in our family structure, as parents, as the children, as the grandparents. We have to make an effort to bring everything now back together and push towards a better Jamaica, a better community. We never even touch the violence part of it because that's a whole nother program. But I just want to thank Calvin, Kiki, Calvin Jr., Kiki, Owen Jr., Michelle, for your very insightful conversation this evening. I learned quite a bit, and I mean, as I say, I'm in awe of parents because sometimes it's a thankless job, but I know people are getting better and better at it, and I'm just so hopeful for our country that we develop. The young men like Owen have seen the value in proper parenting and is doing a whole lot in his community to make this Jamaica a better place. Yes, Michelle, back to you.
No, I was just going to drop in a shameless plug for my parenting webinars. I started doing some parenting webinars, and the next one, I'm taking a break for Christmas. But the next one it's actually on single parenting. What single parenting is, what it means, and how we cope, and it's going to include a little bit on dating, because one of the things I found recently, a lot of the single parents that I know are challenged with how to date. When I say safely, I mean not exposing your children to, well, for me, Uncle Tom, Uncle Joe, Uncle Dan, you don't want to do that. Right. So how do you do that? You're still satisfying yourself. So it's a conversation we're going to have. So that's going to take place actually on the 24th of February. I will have a guest panel of some single dads and single moms. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. Just being real about this whole, how to do it, how to balance parenting, dating, being a single man or woman.
Is that on your Boss Mom page?
So I will promote it on the Boss Mom page, yes. It will be.
And that handle is Boss.
It's Boss Mom Network, and also B3 Boss Mom. But it's going to be in February. But I will start promotion. But it's a conversation that I think, there's so many. The truth is, there are a lot more right now. There are a lot more single parents or unmarried parents. So even some people married and single, but the single parenting conversation is a very powerful conversation, and it involves more people than we think. So looking forward to that conversation. And I'd love to have you there as well. So, but we'll be in touch. We'll talk about it.
Yes. Yeah,
sorry, Calvin, you can come in. You can come and give us some advice.
You have anything that you want to tell us about Owen? Any of your projects coming up? Anything that
Oh,
you're doing right now?
well, projects. I'm thinking of doing like a end of year football competition tournament, which is pretty much here that getting persons from different neighboring communities in Mountain View and the inner city communities to come together and just have like a blowout, a fun day. So what I try to do, I incorporate the football with like a little bit of HIV testing, sexual education, counselors come in, teach the youngsters about good touch, bad touch, issue some condoms. And also as a JP, I pretty much use the day to extend myself to the public, so if persons want to get their passport forms notarized or a driver's license form, I'm pretty much there. I get a person to come and take the passports
I
and
like
photos,
you. I like
like
you.
that. Yeah,
You see
I
why
was
I
just
select him now? You see why I pick him?
yes,
Yeah.
I was also just nominated and shortlisted for a Prime Minister Youth Award again for the second time. I did my interview last week. Keep my fingers crossed this time, but I continue to strive to be a
We're
nation
rooting
builder.
for you. Yes,
Thank you.
nice. Kiki,
So
anything
that's it.
coming up for you?
Life.
Any programs?
No, you know what, honestly, Queen, they're all going to unfold how they will. I just, when them come, them come. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think the final thing I just want to say tonight is that I just would like anyone who's listening right now, your audience, just to know that a man's worth is not caught up in the size of his pocket. And I want men to know that child's worth is not caught up in the relationship you have with the mother. And that's just really my final 2 cents. But anything else I'm doing, they'll hear about it. Thank you.
Nice. Calvin, anything coming up for you?
Oh well, lots of
I know
things.
Optimist Club is very busy. Anything coming
Yes,
up?
and this year actually, the District Governor Al Johnson, his theme for the year is mentorship. So we're doing many projects across the region on mentorship. But there are also in my other life, as you mentioned, I work with Alvin Day, who is the author of the book
Right.
If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I, which is an excellent book for teenagers. And there's another product that we have with
And Assassin and his daughter has a song on it.
exactly. And this one is really the one that is taking the market by storm. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? And that's a
Awesome.
good one for parents to read and to understand themselves, as we mentioned before, and to be able
Right.
to communicate with their children and have the children participate. So,
Okay,
as you
great.
said, there is hope. There is hope. Many persons doing little things in their corners, and there is hope.
Well, as long as I'm alive, there is hope. I don't give up on my men, because I live for them,
Right.
and I work with them, and I pick them up every chance I get. It was so distressing. I mean, I don't want to end the program on a low note. I want to really end it on a high note, but I just had to mention that so many persons said to me, "Oh, Sandy, is you alone? Tell us Happy International Men's Day, Happy Men's Day." I mean, I was so stressed about it, but I think I'm gonna do more promoting next year, because the men are not feeling as if they are being
Honored.
celebrated.
That's
Yeah.
true.
They say men run the world enough, but they really are not being celebrated as some of them should. And the truth is, more males need to mentor more males so that we have a better society. So I just want to leave it there. Thanks again, my friends. Blessings, love,
Thank you.
the
Thank
love
you
of the
very
bad,
much.
bad, bad. I am so grateful.
Yeah.
My ever present Peter. Thanks for joining again, and Annette, Marsha Ann, Paul, all my Melissa, all faithfuls, Brandon. I think Brandon was bringing up mommy, boss mom. That's what I say. Thanks for joining us tonight. And next week, God's Spirit, Andrea, yes, big up yourself. Shireen, big up yourself. And remember,
Is that
folks,
Andrea? Hi, Andrea.
yes, she was listening all this time. So next week I'll be having Doc on, oh gosh, let me just remember. Let me just look it up 1 second. Dr. She's an Dr. Beavers. She's an audiologist. We'll be speaking about hearing and and getting your ears tested, how to identify if children not hearing and that kind of thing. So next week we'll be having that conversation. Please remember, be safe. COVID still a keep. We know get a little reprieve and a little ease up, but please, may I beg you, keep it safe. Mask up, wash your hands, and just stay safe. Social distance, just stay safe. May I beg you do so that Christmas no lockdown. May I beg you, begging. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great week. God bless.
Thank you. Bye, guys.